Welcome everyone to the course from Web 2 to Web 3, from Wikipedia to Wikidata. And this week I'm very happy to host Dr. Martin Poulter from the UK. Martin has been the Wikimedian in residence at the Bodleian Libraries for 4 years and has been a professional doing Wikidata. He has a very interesting perspective that I'm very happy for him to share. And without further ado, let me introduce you to Martin. I was just wondering, for those who are curious, can you tell us a bit about what you did before you started doing Wikidata professionally?
So I got a PhD in the philosophy of science, and I had done philosophy and psychology. And then I wanted to move my expertise sideways into psychology, but I didn't want to do a course or to do more exams. I'd gone through the education system, and I found the best way to develop and test my knowledge was to write for Wikipedia. So I wrote psychological articles for Wikipedia and got very involved in that. And also had a career in educational content for the web. So making interactive websites, some programming, some databases, and so on. And I'd heard about the semantic web. We'd heard about this idea that the web was going to evolve into something where all the databases work together. And we'd been told that a long time, my whole career. And that conspicuously hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And so going to Wikipedia training, I heard about Wikidata and went to Wikidata training. And this was the web that I'd hoped for. This is where you could express a fact in an abstract way, represent the fact itself, not writing a sentence in text to express the fact that you post on a blog or on Wikipedia. So I was really excited about that. It was something that appealed to me as a volunteer, a Wikipedian who contributes to shared knowledge, but also as someone with that career in education and making interactive things for the web.
Yeah, and I guess we'll talk more about interaction a bit later on. I'm guessing, well, I at least know that one of your important gigs, if I can call it that, in the past years have been that you've been appointed to be the Wikimedian in residence for the Bodleian Libraries in Oxford University. And I'm hoping you can share a bit about that experience, and first of all, how it came to you, how this happened even, because when that happened, which was a few years back, as you say, the ecosystem wasn't even ripe as it is now. So it wasn't as widespread as it is now to have Wikimedian in residence doing Wikidata stuff. So can you share a bit about that?
Yeah, after a lot of editing of Wikipedia, I sought out other Wikipedians to meet in real life and went to a talk about the national chapter. So we have Wikimedia UK here that does lots of outreach and was successful in getting partnerships with museums and libraries. And I realized this is something I really want to do. I want to commit to in a big way as a volunteer initially. So I spent a year as a trustee of the charity. And so that's not just improving Wikipedia and the other wiki projects by editing them, bigger, more transformative sense of partnering with the traditional institutions of knowledge, with universities, and my main career is in university, but museums, GLAMs, and that could be, so to bring about that change when free knowledge gets so much better because so many more organizations are sharing, so many more educational opportunities, more education assignments that people can do with freely reusable, remixable content. And I really believe in open culture. So the Larry Lessig lectures, and there is open culture, remix culture.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important. Open access.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd had a job in science communication for a while, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of overlap there with open access and wanting the fruits of research to be, again, remixable, reusable, available to everybody. So I dedicate some time. So for a while, I was a volunteer a fellow, somebody with particular focus on partnerships with education institutions and partnerships with academia, and promoting wiki platforms as a serious platform for academia. And then this opportunity came up. Well, two opportunities came up to do it as a paid job. So I took those up. One was with an educational charity called JISC. I was with for 10 months. And again, it was sort of sowing the seeds for more joining up. They work across the education sector in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And there had been maybe the first or second paid Wikipedian in the world, who's Andrew Gray at the British Library. He had done a national tour. So he had gone to different universities giving Wikipedia training and helping them run events. And he'd gone to Oxford. And so the Bodleian Library, similar institution to the British Library, these are both massive storehouses of knowledge, of millions of books that mm-hmm. Get everything published in the country. They get a copy by law. The Bodleian wanted to do something too. So I was ideally placed when they decided when they wanted to employ Wikipedian. Mm-hmm. So there was some outreach there. Like a lot of libraries, they have a special collections department. So they have the books on the shelves, which are like the textbooks or the books that everybody needs lots of copies of, and are in every other library. But there's the special documents, manuscripts, things that there's only one of in the world, and they're the special collections of that library. So they have events and publicity and exhibitions, and that's a big part of what the Bodleian does and how it relates to people. So, and we had the Ada Lovelace Day celebrating women in science. We had sort of public events for people to come in. And the Wikipedia attraction and Wikicommons and Wikisource attraction was that rather than just coming in and listening to a lecture about women scientists of history, they could listen to a lecture and then do something, improve Wikipedia in some way. Mm-hmm. On Wikisource, the free library, I started transcribathons. So we'd have a session, we'd have members of the public come in and say, everybody does 2 pages of a book, and we transcribe a book from scans to get an electronic copy of the book. But that was just a 1-year placement. As you say, I extended it to 4 years, and a big part of that was persuading Oxford that they needed Wikidata, a presence in Wikidata in particular, and that Wikidata solved this problem which every complex institution faces, of how to join up information. Mm-hmm. So what I've had to do is, like I say, I just believe in this cultural change, that remix culture is coming to the cultural sector, open access is coming to research publication, but we've got to push for these things, otherwise they'll come very, very slowly. So this is using my career to push for a change I just believe should occur, mm-hmm. and persuading organizations, departments, museums to dip their toe in the water, to start sharing some information freely and just let people remix it, make new things with it.
Mm-hmm. And before we actually delve to the Bodleian, because you kind of mentioned academic institutions and education in general, which is obviously very relevant for us, and also a little bird told me that you just published a really nice article about what educational institutions can do with academia, with Wikimedia. I would be really happy to hear your perspective, because in that sense, sorry if I'm blabbering a bit, but the Bodleian in a sense is a mix. It has 2 feet in two different places. One is, on the one hand, it's part of an academic institution. On the other, it's a GLAM institution. For me, these two always go hand in hand, but not for everyone. But in that sense, you were in a unique position to kind of taste both worlds. On the one hand, to understand or to kind of experience libraries and as a partner, and on the other, to explore academia as a collaborator. And before we delve into what you did with the library part, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on why do you think at this moment in time it's imperative for academic institutions to actually explore Wikidata for both educators and I would say researchers. Yeah.
I think trying to get this across to people in institutions, they think there's going to be one thing you can do. There's one, they hear about a new tool or a new piece of software, and they want to know, what is the one thing that this thing does differently that will help me? And that doesn't apply to Wikidata and the Wikidata platforms, because they're so complex and they offer so many things we want to do. And it maps onto how the university is a complex institution. So in the university, there are research projects. Those projects are publishing papers, and they're probably publishing databases and other raw material. And they want this to be noticed and used by the people and cited. And so it's not enough that it's just on a website. It's not enough that it's available to the public. It's got to be linked with other things. We've got to lay down the paths so that people looking for this particular inventor, or looking the novelist Jane Austen, or looking for a painter, there's got to be the pathways with people with those interests should find that material. So it's similar for the special collections. So a university library will have special collections. It has unique stuff. A museum will have unique stuff. It wants awareness. It wants the public to be aware this exists and the public to engage. So we mentioned women in science. Well, you can be aware that there's a lecture about a female scientist, or you can actually be committed because you're doing something relevant. You're writing a Wikipedia article, or you're transcribing a book in Wikisource. So sharing the top level of data, sharing not all of the data from your project or institution or all the catalog from your museum, but sharing some data from each of these things, joining up with each other and joining up with existing sources of information. That's the opportunity that hasn't been possible before Wikidata. Wikidata is multi-purpose, every kind of subject dealt with, and it has its flaws, but it's easy to remedy the flaws because you can change it. And so there are other big databases, so there are other big, interesting databases, but there are bigger databases, there are more interesting databases, but Wikidata has a special role in that it's so cross-purpose because it's joining up different identifiers and all the different names and identifiers for a particular thing in different human languages and in different computer systems. Mm-hmm. So my analogy is with the web, that you want to be on the web. It'd be mad to not be on the web, but it's not enough nowadays to be on the web because there's junk, there's irrelevant information on the web. So you've got to be joined up somehow with other sources of information about the same thing. And that implies if you're the museum, the library, the research project, if you're the lecturer, you want raw material that students analyze and synthesize and do assignments on. So I think almost everything that goes on in a university is relevant in some way to what happens on Wikidata and the other wiki projects.
Yeah, I personally totally agree with what you just said. I actually completed today an academic article just about how Wikidata could be used in so many different ways for learning. But you've mostly talked about how it's good for research institutions and academic institutions themselves. What do you think learners benefit from it? So the students themselves.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So in a previous part of my career, I created database-driven websites. So a book database, links database, question bank, those sorts of things. And so I had to study SQL and database structure and coding and so on. And it was boring as hell, because the examples you get are, well, here's a company and here's its recent orders. Now you can use a database to generate the invoices. Woohoo, I can't get excited about that. And it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter much to me that this fictional company has orders from its customers. Wikidata I can get lost in, because it's about the people of history, the art of it, the Japanese art, lighthouses, lifeboat stations, things on the coast, things inland, ancient countries, family trees, royal family trees of great geniuses. So the content is actually interesting, and it's just so much more of a pleasant experience. And also the way Wikidata is structured in triples is more, it's closer to how human language works. That human language has sentences, and some of those sentences are description and some of them are questions. And when I'm writing Sparkle, I'm really writing a question, but just in a different language. So it's more how I think. So it's just more fun. I think it's more useful. It's more immediately useful, because I've used Wikidata time and time again to get me some interesting data set. Maybe not the final answer to a question, but interesting answers to something I or a colleague I'm interested in or want for my job, or I can help people in their work by doing a query and getting them this kind of thing they're interested in.